Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming out this evening at 25 degrees outside. We are appreciative to everyone. Thank you, panelists. Thank all of you that are joining us live, and this will be on podcast, and they'll probably run it later. So thank you all for joining us too. Today we celebrate, and it has been a great day of celebration here in Northwest Arkansas. We celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so Music Moves, an organization here in Northwest Arkansas that we are just about two things, and that's making sure that Black history and music is preserved, performed, and we use performances and we use education to make sure that that message gets around here in Northwest Arkansas. And actually, we've been able to visit a couple places in the state, but primarily we're in Northwest Arkansas. I have a whole list of thank yous, and I want to make sure and get those out the way, because I'm telling you, once the panelists start, you won't want to hear anything else except for the meat that'll be coming off of the bones that they're going to give you all today. We want to thank the Multicultural Center. Thank you all. Give them a hand so much. Thank you. Enrique, staff, thank you all so much for having us here today. We want to thank Jeremiah Pickett for putting this together. Thank you. AKA Bang. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bang, for putting this together today. We also want to acknowledge that we are at the University of Arkansas having this, and the Arkansas Center for Black Music is here at the University of Arkansas. Our class is graduating this spring. We'll be graduating with a master's in Black sacred music, and so shout out to the University of Arkansas.
Yes.
Everyone that's a part of that program, they are not only lovers of music, but researchers of music. It is a research degree. Look, many of us were hoping that it was a performative degree, but it was not. It is a research degree, so you have to dig deep within that program. But we invite, some of you all that might want to be a part of that. There's a certification in that, and so you don't have to get a master's degree. You can get a certification in Black sacred music at the University of Arkansas. So we just wanted to share that with everybody. Today, as we discuss, and we're gonna dig in today, but as we discuss and as we honor Dr. King, this particular is near and dear to, of course, to us as a music organization. But when you talk about Black music, and we say Black sacred music because Black sacred music encompasses everything that's American music, right? And so when we say Black sacred music, we're saying every genre of music that originated on American soil comes out of the Black diaspora. And so for us to have the conversation about the why, about its relationship to America, there are 5 things that I did write down. I wrote down that we're going to talk about education, faith, culture, history, mental health, and finally, we're going to make sure that we have the lived experiences and the shared lived experiences. And so this great panel, this great aggregation panel that's before you today, they are all experts in their own right in those different areas. And so I'm going to introduce them. I'm going to introduce them. Dr. Eric Hughes. Dr. Eric Hughes is an entrepreneur, artist, philanthropist, national speaker, and faculty member in the Department of History at the University of Arkansas. His research examines Black geographies in America. Eric founded Visionary Enterprises in 2016. Visionary produces film, media, and events with a mission to promote and preserve Black culture through education, creativity, and social justice. Y'all put your hands together for Dr. Eric Hughes. Thanks, Doc. Reverend Fannie Washington.
Okay, Bernie.
Sister Fannie Washington is the senior pastor and spiritual leader with over 40 years of ministry experience serving churches across Arkansas. She currently serves as the senior pastor of BB Chapel in Wrightsville, Arkansas. Her work reflects the enduring role of the Black church as the source of faith, resilience, and leadership in movements for justice and community care. Thank you so much, Sister Fannie Washington, for being with us today. Dustin McGowan, pastor, educator, and community leader with a deep grounding in biblical studies, Black history, and justice-centered theology. His work bridges faith, equity, allyship, and moral leadership with a focus on how spiritual frameworks inform social responsibility and collective liberation. Dustin McGowan. Thank you so much, Dustin, for being with us. And your family is definitely in our prayers, man, in our prayers. Raymond House. Raymond House, musician, producer, film scorer, culture leader with a career spanning music production, instrumental performance, and film scoring. He also serves in a senior global relationship role within a major corporation, bringing a unique perspective at the intersection of creativity, culture, and institutional influence. Raymond House. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, did you want to say where that institution is that you work at, or what was that? Okay. Look, that's most of our housekeeping there, and so we're gonna jump right on in, and because we want to be able to have a little bit of engagement time and a little bit of interactive time, so we're gonna jump right on in. Today, I'm gonna throw the first pitch at the individual that probably has more knowledge than all of us up here. And so, Sister Washington, I want you to share a little bit about this. How did spirituals and freedom songs serve both as worship and as mission?
Well, the church was actually the central hub of the movements, of doing the integration, doing everything, during that time when we were trying to be together. And unless we are together, the purpose cannot be completed as it would if we were all together. So the church served as a meeting place, a place of encouragement, a place of direction, and so forth.
And what about, talk to us specifically about that music, about those spiritual songs and those songs of freedom. Talk to us a little bit about that.
The gospel music was one of the key socio-political and religio-cultural tools utilized by the leaders and the foot soldiers, amen, of the civil rights movement to attract young audiences. And we see that it has.
And I'm gonna dig in on that. And
Okay.
we're gonna jump to someone else because there's a question that's gonna be related to that.
All
but
right.
what I want to say is, when you're talking about black music and black sacred music particularly, if you look at any nation, and we're going to come to you, Doc, but if you look at any nation,
Yes.
the songbook of the nation is the history of that nation. Whatever the songbook says,
Yes.
that's what the history of the nation is. So even if people here are saying that everything is good and everything is fine and we all getting along, all you have to do is check the songbook.
Oh my God. Yes.
Whatever the songbook says, that's what's going on. So, Doc, as we jump to you, how does music function in the historical area when our written history fails or doesn't include the proper, all of the information? How does the songbook work?
Well, first of all, I want to thank God and thank you all for the invitation to share and to really talk about the civil rights movement and highlight the legacy of Dr. King is to speak about the Black freedom struggle. That's the work that they were engaged in. And the Black freedom struggle is musical. The way that Black freedom has been limited and the way that Black people have worked through these limitations has been through song, it's been through singing. And so when we look at the civil rights era, if the civil rights movement historically we refer to as the reawakening of the soul of the nation, then the spirituals are the songs, it's the soundtrack, is what is heard in church, is what the songs that they were singing. And when we think about the music during the civil rights movement, we tend to think about the song "We Shall Overcome." We hear that song so often, but there were other songs that were far more utilized, even within the church and during the movement, This Little Light of Mine was one of the key songs that people sung. Onward Christian Soldier, these are songs that reflected the purposefulness and the intent that these Black people had to secure freedom. And the church was a key way and a space in which those spirituals and that music translated.
When you talk about the different songs and how these songs propel us forward, right? When you're speaking about Black music, particularly in America, there's always tomorrow. There's always down the road. It's always we're gonna get there. Whether it's ooh child, things are gonna get easier, or whatever those songs are. The songs were always pointed to the future, to encourage, but also to propel us in our faith. And of course, you already know in Northwest Arkansas, if you know anything and anybody in Northwest Arkansas that is going to talk about faith, politics, and intersectionality of Black liberation theology, you know Dustin McGowan. So Dustin, talk about how music sends us to a better day, how it projects that better day for us.
First of all, there's a bit of overselling here, but I appreciate it. Glad to be a part of this conversation. I think it's connected to what you've already said, that we are driven by the sounds and rhythms of justice as Black people in our history. And so we have an embodied experience that is full of the things that we have longed to see come to pass, right? And so it is this idea of living in oppression and struggle, but not binding ourselves in the present nor eternally to that reality. And so in declaring something to be true that is not yet experienced. And so I think one of the powerful things about the Black church faith experience has been this rootedness to be able to be connected in our worship and our preaching and our liturgy of what the scriptures honestly testify to. And it's these ideas of truth, of justice, of liberation, of wholeness, of peace, in the ways in which they are meant to be manifested and lived out versus the ways in which they have been bastardized and have been truncated in our current world. And so if you want to be able to see the expression of how God's people press into those truths, right, about this tension of, these things that, this idea already not yet, these things that should be so and are declared to be so, but are not yet lived into, is one of those beautiful things that we tend to see in the Black faith experience and the Black worship experience, and which makes Black worship, Black music unique among cultures globally.
And go ahead.
No, go ahead. No.
When we talk about the global, and you brought me right to that point. When we talk about Black culture, Black music, and we start talking about from a global perspective, the numbers are astronomical. The number one genre this past year, does anybody know? Just a guess. Number one genre. Number one genre. It was hip hop in the world. Country had been seated at the top for the last 20 something years, but just recently, hip hop is the number one genre in the world, and that's for listening. Now, it hasn't moved to number one in sales, but it is number one in listening, so in viewership, which means that, again, Black culture, Black art around the globe is widely accepted. It's widely accepted. But when we think about the global piece, I'm now coming coming to you, Raymond, because being in the space that you're in as a creative, talk to us a little bit about what it looks like, and I want to talk about it from the amount of work that has to be done in order to bring these pieces, right, to bring these pieces forward. But how does that return? And I know it can't be just for the finances, right? Because we just said that number one in finances is still country music. Number one in viewership is hip hop. So, and there's a large discrepancy there, right, on the amount of money. But talk about the work that goes into creating those masterpieces, even though the compensation might not be there. So jump on the business side of it.
Well, first of all, I get into the response there. I too want to appreciate the team here, the opportunity to be a part of this panel and being amongst such esteemed panelists beside me. So it definitely is an honor and privilege. One thing that I've had the opportunity, both in working within 9 to 5 and then the 5 to 9 after that, from a creative perspective, there are a couple of things that are universal, no matter where you go. There are a few things that are universal, but one of those that stand out. One is mathematics, because it is inherently a universal language, no matter where it is that you go. But music is also universal. So no matter where you go, there is something that can be communicated through those avenues and through those venues, because there's something inherent about music that communicates and moves faster than any other form of communication that could be there. People tend to feel before they think, right? And when you think about the messages that's within music, there's something that they feel first before there's actually any thought or any sort of intellect or any sort of conversation verbally from any language. There's a feeling that's there. And usually that becomes, the advantage and the purpose, how advantageous and purposeful music as a conduit in between cultures, no matter where they are. That's something that becomes advantageous to music, and that being an avenue that you can use. Because usually music is also, no matter where you go, and I've had the opportunity to, travel to different countries several different times, and usually music is the first thing that becomes identifying the connector, no matter what the culture is, right? And understanding that connectivity and the thoughtfulness that has to go in there, because there's a certain amount of care that has to be taken when using those mediums from an art perspective, and understanding how powerful and how and fluid of a communication perspective that is. So just making sure that, at least for the work that I do, and understanding working as an artist, but also working with artists, understanding the emotion that needs to be portrayed. That is what message are you trying to send? What is it you want to feel? And then being thoughtful on connecting that with what does that sound like, and who is it that I'm actually trying to communicate to, right? And making sure that all of those things are taken into consideration, because it's no matter where you are in the world, there's a certain amount of effectiveness that can be taken from there.
There are only two cultures, and I'm gonna jump on something that you just said. There are only two cultures in the world, and I don't even know the name of them. We weren't able to find the names of them, but there are only two cultures that don't have music. So out of the thousands and thousands of cultures that are in the world, there are only two that don't have an art form of music. And so, as you said, music, it crosses, it's the fastest, right, medium of communication, because everybody can get it now pretty quick, right? You can get it pretty quick, unless you're using, old school flip phone or whatever. You can get to music very, very quick. The similarities, and this is something that we want to dig in on. When we're talking about this medium that we have, and how between cultures, and here's the point that we want to jump to, is how are we making sure, and I'm trying to remember, Dr. Eric, this was that you, how are we making sure that as we transmit this culture, that the essence of it's still there, even if it's being transmitted by outside of culture? Talk to us a little bit about that. It's easy for everybody to transmit it because we see everywhere. Everybody's involved in hip hop. Matter of fact, as it relates to gospel music, everybody sees what's going viral now, right? Pretty much everybody that's in Japan, like gospel music has exploded there. And so you're seeing these gospel choirs there, and they are very good. Like they are excellent in their craft. But how do we make sure that the essence of the culture remains there, especially with the young people?
Absolutely. I think it's a lot of what Raymond was speaking to about the intentionality of the messages in the music and being educated ourselves into how music was used and has been used as a part of this larger freedom struggle within the context of a medium of communication, being able to speak the language that younger people speak and being able to transmit those messages in a way that they can feel it is really what matters to them, because they are the sharpest generations that we have. They see through everything real quick. And if you're able to connect with them and share that history and share these legacies of those spirituals, then you can understand how to use those same songs to help us now. When you know that Fannie Lou Hamer in Mississippi was getting beat by the police and she sang in their face to demonstrate the strength, you can use that now. And if you have people that sharing those messages with that intent, then the younger people can pick it up. But we got to know it, and we got to be intentional and purposeful in those messages.
So you're saying it's incumbent on the culture to make sure that the message of the music continues to be propagated.
We got to know our history for ourselves. We got to.
Reverend Washington, I
Yes,
want to come back to you. What responsibility does the church hold today? I want to talk about that. How? Let's talk about today. Now we know what the church has done.
Yes.
And the importance of the church and how central it has been to freedom. And I want to talk about freedom even from America has ideas about where we should be.
Mm-hmm.
But particularly in America, it has been the Black church that has held us true to those ideas.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Yes.
As a culture, it has been the Black church that has said, we preaching this, so let's march. Since we saying this, let's march in this direction. So what is the role of the church today?
Thank you, sir. And I want to say a moment ago, I forgot to say, giving all honor to God. Amen. And to you all. I'm so glad to be here. And I see some of my grandbabies back there. So to God be the glory. This is something that I think we kind of strayed away from. Training, teaching. You cannot forget where God has brought us from. So we have to find ways to still be, I'm looking for a particular word, still be able to gather together in unity. Sometimes there's a big gathering when there's no togetherness. And we have to get together and have a goal in mind that we need to reach like our ancestors did. They had a goal in mind, and they were able to accomplish that. And we're living part of the results today. Yes, yes, yes. So as I get older, I'm 2 years retired per se because of my age, but I'm sent back out to supply until younger people see the importance of saying yes to the work that must continue to go on.
You're pastoring right now, right?
Yes, I am pastoring. I am pastoring, and I pastored from northern Arkansas to the Delta to over by Louisiana. Now I'm here in Fayetteville. And I believe that God always strategically place his people in a place where there's a great need. None of us are here by coincidence. And so the church is very, very, very important today because we have got to get back to teaching what thus says the one that created the whole earth, and says the earth is the Lord's and the fullness, that means all of us, thereof, and they that dwell therein. We've got to get back to just coming down to the brass tacks of letting people know it's got to be this way. It's not going to work. It's all about LOVE. And if we say, hey, it's been sung about, it's been written about, it's been preached about, it's been prayed about, we've heard it. I mean, we were talking about the music, the gospel, not only the gospel, but there were other songs by Sam Cooke, A Change Is Gonna Come. They didn't sing that because they wanted to sing something. Those songs were sang because they were expecting a change to come. We got to be the same way. I mean, we can't go back. We got to go forward. So it behooves us as a body of believers to try and find out what exactly we're supposed to be doing to encourage and increase, especially the young generation. Because right now, they're just sitting back and they're saying, if this is what we see that we think love is all about, then I don't know if I want any parts of it.
When you talk about the way that you talked about love and the way that you're right, we talk about it every week, especially in religious settings, right?
Yes.
We talk about love every week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where's the practice? And that's what you're
That's
saying.
it.
Like
That's
we're in
it.
theology, but where's the
Where's
practice
the practice?
of this theology? And the transformative love, even if we look through the songbook, this transformative love is able to look in the face and despite what is being faced, still able to speak in a way that was very clear. I love that you said that Fannie Lou Hamer, in the face of being beaten,
Yes.
was still able to sing. Now, for us, like if that's the baseline, if that's the bottom and the base, where do we stand? And that's a question that we can all ask ourselves. When we're provoked, what do we do? Go ahead, Doc.
I just wanted to highlight how important this call is that you are given to, particularly the church, to take a leadership role. I was at an event earlier. I think Dr. Colbert was there, and you all were asking about what are the things that Dr. King would speak out against now. And I believe he would share the same things he did then in the letters of a Birmingham jail. Where are our faith leaders? We have people getting snatched up by the military on our streets, on American streets. Where are the faith leaders? Where is our church? Where is our community that shows that love to care about these people? And we can't lose that.
No, we cannot.
Dustin, this is a slow pitch for you, because we talk about these things in context within Black community. You hear about them sometimes on the news, but what does it look like for us to align across these lines? What does real allyship look like? Yeah, within the faith community, particularly.
I think allyship, one, looks like costly engagement, one. And secondly, it looks like proximity. I think there's times in the history of, the freedom struggles of marginalized, oppressed peoples where allies come along when it's trendy. When it is the thing that everyone is talking about, there's the peer pressure, the forward momentum of the time pushing people in a particular trajectory. And then it becomes easy to partner, right, when it is receiving applause. But the question becomes, when things become costly, when proximity is connected to danger and loss? Is there a willingness to remain in the struggle? One of the conversations that I often have with, white people in these struggles is that the question becomes, are you willing to remain when you have nothing to benefit from? Right? And then the question you have to ask yourself, what is it that is transcendent, that is above you, that is calling you to remain, right? To remain committed and connected. And I think that is the question of our current cultural moment, right? Because times like we are living in now are times that demand courage, right? And because boldness is dangerous, right? Pursuing justice is dangerous. And I think there's a lot of people who have opted out of the pressure of self-preservation. And that's what we cannot afford to have. And I think that's across the board. I think there's Black people who fit into that box as well. Those who are feeling tired, who are feeling burnt out, who are feeling who are feeling despair in this moment. And I think what justice demands is that we lean in. And that's what allies need to do. Those who are a part of whatever people group that is being marginalized and oppressed, or those who are outside who want to walk alongside and partner, it is to lean in, right? And to listen, to lament, to work, to organize. And I think one of the other things I think is important to say is to submit power to those communities that you are seeking to serve. Right. One of the things that comes with privilege is the idea that if I have the resources, right, and I have the power and proximity to other power, that means that I should be able to call the shots and make the decisions. And that tends to be what I've experienced happening with groups that claim they want to be allies in these struggles. But what needs to happen, right, is the leveraging of power, the leveraging of resources, the leveraging of proximity, right, to carve out the spaces to which those people who are being excluded and pushed out can occupy, so that they can leverage themselves for their own people's good and benefit. And so that's what we need to see more of. I've too often seen people who've wanted to be allies, but all they've wanted to do is control everything that is happening. And so how do we submit to those who are doing the work at the grassroots level, right? Who are living on the front lines, who are grinding day in and day out. Be supported by those who say, I see you, I'm committed to the work that you're pursuing, I agree in the goal of what you're pursuing, and I want to bring the whole power of what I can bring to the table and put it behind you, right? Not run ahead of you.
Now, to bring both of these things together, so now we're going to have to go back and teach the songbook, right? Because we've just forgotten the songs. We've forgotten. I ain't going to let nobody turn me around. Or we've forgotten that Donny Hathaway said, take it from me, someday we'll all be free. And if those songs are not being pushed down, then what'll happen is we'll just forget the songs, and we'll forget everything that's attached to those songs, right? And those emotions. Go ahead.
And I think that is the ploy of the system, is to offer. I've seen our entertainers get offered more money to do degrading songs, and some of them right now are regretting it. And they speak out saying, when it was a time, we were all just trying to build each other up. Then all of a sudden you saw a lot of entertainment come out that was negative. and they were being offered the most money at that particular time. But I've heard them in the last few years say, I regret, taking that. And, I heard something said a moment ago about faith. It seems like the church has lost more faith than the world has. And we hear about it every day. I mean, every Sunday, all through the week. Faith in God makes a difference. Faith, faith, faith. We walk by faith and not by sight. While I was serving in West Helena, I had an opportunity to go and visit a part of the Underground Railroad. The family was beginning to get threatened so bad that they no longer will allow that. Yes, and that's history. So I was, and when I saw what the slaves had to go through in order to get through there, from house to house, place to place, it was so small. But at least they were there. They were willing to be an ally, as you were saying. It's several things that in several communities that God has blessed me to witness that we have just kind of, forgotten about. And our young people just take the life for granted, that it's going to be, everything is going on the up and up, and we're not going back, but we see another plan in action.
That does bring me to that's Reverend Washington, you walking this thing right through. Look, you should have been facilitating. Right. So because we're detached from the songbook, we haven't taught the songbook. They have no reference for the sound of it. And one of the things, I'm going back a couple of years now, but I remember during the first election of Donald Trump, I remember specifically my parents saying that there was language that they had heard before. There was some language that had been heard before, but if you hadn't been taught that, then you wouldn't know that was a very familiar sound. It was a very familiar sound, and it looked like it was about something else, but it actually was about something else. But if we had been teaching those things and stayed true to teaching those things, and not just teaching those things just within community, because it's important when we talk about the allyship, it's important that we have everyone at the table. And so this is straight to you, Raymond, as someone who navigates both the creative industries and the corporate institutions. What responsibilities do leaders or organizations have in honoring cultural truth and equity? I know it's a long question, but how do we get this message without losing the essence? That's
okay. All right. So I want to make sure that we focus in on a couple of the key words in the question that you talked through. You talked about culture, truth, and then equity, right? And then what responsibilities leaders, organizations have within it, right? So I want to jump back to a point that you made, Dustin, about the costliness of, and I think that's what ties in within that. Organizations and have to realize that there's a cost associated with ensuring that culture, one, holds its truth and it is equitable for that truth. Because what we realize, organizations shape and influence and impact culture, whether they want to admit to it or not, because of their impact and their influence and their integration in so many different spaces and so many different places. They have to be a part of it. And the cost comes is that when you think about the thought around branding and marketing and controlling the narratives around, from a business perspective, and the advantages of being able to do that, and what you look like as an organization, as a company, and how people spend their money and how they spend their dollars and those things. What you have to realize is that when you talk about cultural truth and equity, it's not in marketing and branding. It's in the stewardship and what you have to give up in order to be part of that, right? You can't create the truth and mold and market and brand the truth of a culture for your benefit from an organization. You have to allow that culture to speak its own truth, right? And then the real cost comes in. It's the stewardship is allowing companies, organizations, allowing the space for that truth to be told and to exist without control of it and without having to handhold it and mold it to be something that is safe, that is marketable, that feels right, that won't get us, that we believe won't get us sued or won't put us in but there's a cost associated with that. And when you think about companies that are, for what is very vast, when they're centered around making money, they are very particular around where their costs are. And there's a risk associated, but it's something that we have to be able to do, right? We have to be able to give up control and create space for that truth to be where it needs to be, because that's the voice of the voiceless. That's the voice of those that have been marginalized and minimized, right? And usually for companies, especially ones that I've worked for before in their sizes, that becomes the breadth of who they deal with, and you can't. But I think people are recognizing, realizing that, you know, they have power within where their commerce and where their dollars go, right? And I want to make a conscious choice on dealing with organizations. So now it's a responsibility that companies have, but now they have to know that people are making them realize that there's a cost. Which one do you want to spend and which one do you want to take? Do you want to give up controlling and having to be able to shape how culture is the way you want it to be? Or do you want to give up the real nitty-gritty of the bottom line being impacted, because those who you've impacted negatively from a cultural perspective by minimizing their truth now decide to go and do business other places? It's on us to be able to let that truth be stated by the culture, and create space for that to be exactly what it is, exactly how it is, because that's what means the most to the people and are part of those cultures.
So leaders have a huge task, right? Because they are speaking for us in spaces that we're not in, right? That's happening all the time. Dr. King, how many times did he have to go to the White House? Like we look at it on the movies and we see the 2 or 3 times, but they said it was way more than that there were constant phone calls. As leaders, for those that are committing themselves to be leaders and to be in those spaces. And I want to bring out a leader, and he's just here, and he's actually on the Music Moves board, but Dr. Colbert, I want to say, I have watched you over the last 30-something years. That's telling how old I am real quick, but over the last 30-something years, I've watched you as a leader, and you didn't agree every time in the room, in the office, but you did let it be known that you didn't agree in those offices and in those spaces. And that's what it will take, leaders standing in those spaces uncomfortably, lifting up the banner of humanity for Black folks, but not realizing that when we lift up the banner for Black folks, it's lifting up the banner of humanity for everybody. Right? When we think about these songs, I'm gonna ask you all right now. Now, don't name any of the songs that we've named, but what are some other songs that come to mind when you think about, at that time it wasn't good, but the song was projecting for a better future? What are some songs? Somebody yell out one. Okay. All right. We're marching to Zion. Give me some more. Give me some more songs. Okay. All right. Got that one. More Christian Soldiers. What else? Okay. Okay. Nina Simone, okay? What are some of those songs? Because our ability to name those songs and to pull from those songs lyrically, we need that songbook in our soul so that we can pull from that to know, okay, when we talk about this better tomorrow, it's just not names that are there, but what are some of those songs that just reach and we know? And even as an organization, we're gonna, this year, we doubling down some more. And now, look, we're gonna jump in because I'm ready to ask Dr. Hughes to jump in with us on something that I'm thinking about while I'm sitting here. But we're gonna double down on making sure that everybody has the songbook. That's what we want to have. We want folks to have this songbook of freedom for everybody. As we, I think we've gone. Okay, we got 5 minutes. We got 5. So y'all know for Baptist folk, that's not a long time. That is not a long time. So let's look. I want to thank our panelists. Thank you all so much for being here today. I'll give our panelists. What do you all want to share? Is there anything that within 30 seconds that if you had to say something to somebody right now about the movement, about the music, about the culture, what would that be? What 30 seconds? And y'all want to go left or right to left?
Well, I personally would like to say I believe that we had a true example to exemplify what it would mean to love, to walk together. And as we study the life of Christ, we'll find out that everywhere he went, people didn't approve of him all the time. As a matter of fact, they disapproved more than they approved, but his mission was accomplished. And if we can just learn how to come together and be honest, be real. We have to be real with each other. We have to say what we mean and mean what we say. If you're not going to be a part of the movement, just say, I'm not going to be a part of it. Because there are so many more that's willing to be a part. But it's so much I'd like to share, but I don't have the time because I do know that we're in that era almost to the point where you can't come to church anymore in the South, the southern part of the state, without locking your door on Sunday. People pass through shooting. So people are afraid to come in the church, and that's a ploy. If we keep them out of there, then, So it's so much going on around us daily that it's going to take faith. It's going to take us standing together at any cost, because that is what we promised to do. We said, hey, if we're gonna do it, we got to be in it 100%. Because if we don't, we're fighting a losing battle.
Thank you, Reverend Washington.
Thank you.
Thank you for all that you do.
It's a real tough act to follow. I'm just go ahead and put it out there right now. Really briefly, I can only help but look at the shirt right here for the organization Music Moves, and I think that's the biggest thing that I wanted, because music moves, and it moves so much faster and so much more fluid in what it is and what it's trying to say, even when we have socioeconomical and political structures and systems, and it takes a long time to change laws, and it takes a long time to change businesses and rules and commerce, but music in an instant captures and flows and sends it. So thinking about how it's always done that and how it will continue to do that. So holding on to the history of what music has taught us, and then carrying that forward as more music is created and being responsible for what we do with that.
I really don't have much to share. I would like to thank Music Moves for the opportunity and the invitation. I will encourage you to write the songbook. Everybody has something that they're responsible for and a task that they're supposed to do. I'm the type that believes that if you get the name or if it comes to you, then it's your responsibility. So you spoken it here. I'm looking forward to seeing this sound book come to life, and really I'm looking forward to seeing how that will help the next generations to continue to maintain that legacy and maintain that history, because that's where they are. That's what they listen to. And we have to use these spaces intentionally. And I'm thankful that you all as an organization see the value in that and are committed to that. So, continue to do what you're doing.
I'm going to tap into my preacher bag and probably say more than I need to say. But one of the things that really comes to mind, and I just really feel necessary to say in this time, is that, and this is talking to the Black folk in the room and those who want to be allies, but I think it's essential in this cultural moment that we stop allowing ourselves to be bullied and to allow our language and our history and our music to be co-opted, to allow our faith to be co-opted by those who would misuse it, particularly with the faith in it as well. Being a Christian is the only thing that you can claim to be, and people will accept it and agree without any evidence, right, or credentials, right, any proof to the truth of it. And I think that's what the Black church is necessary, because it has, and it should continue to be, a mirror of what the faith really is to those who would bastardize it and would misuse it. And the last thing that I would want to say to that is just that, like, we have to reclaim our rhetoric, right? We allow our words and our ideas to be taken from us and used against us. You can take woke from us. You can take social justice from us. Take all these words from us and allow them to be deformed and used against us. And that connects to this idea that I think that what we really have to be able to do is to demonstrate that justice and liberation does not require the tools of empire. And what I mean by that is that we demonstrate what justice and freedom and liberation is by pursuing it while not making it necessary to retract or take anybody else's dignity or humanity or liberation as well, right? My freedom does not mean that you cannot be free, right? And so I think we have to reject the tools of empire. In all of our spaces and all of our institutions, if we are people who are really going to fight for justice. And so we have to be bold and courageous and creative and united, right? That together is the only way in which we can accomplish what we seek to accomplish, which means that we have to be on the same page to some degree. We don't have to agree on everything, right? But it is a convergence of all of our efforts, right? It requires King and Malcolm and Stokely, right? It requires all of these movements converging to be able to gain progress, right? And so they might not agree on what is the necessary, the practice on how do we get there, but they agree that Black liberation is the end, right? And so how do we get on the same page to be able to create together an ecosystem that allows us to organize, that allows us to be able to pursue our goals, right, that do not destroy us in the process, right, because we are a united front. And so that's what I want to say. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pastor Dustin. Give our panelists a hand again. Look, thank you all. Thank you all so much for showing up today. Again, it's 25 and it's going the other way as we speak outside, but thank you all for showing up and being here. Look, Music Moves, please follow us. Follow us on social media, musicmovesar.com. Music Moves, of course, on Instagram, Facebook, everything that's out there, so that you can see we're in the community all the time, but we're looking for more spaces. Thank you, Multicultural Center, again, for allowing us to come. Thank you, Program Director Anthony Ball at Music Moves, for working with, is Bank still here? Is he? Okay. Thank you again, Jeremiah, for putting this together. Chipmunk was one of the students that started working with us probably about 3 years back, 3 or 4 years back, and he has been just, y'all know him. He's a love pusher. That's what he says. He's a love pusher in our community, and so thank you, Bang. For those that didn't know, this is his. We see now that it wasn't him. This is his grandmother who agreed to be on our panel today to bring so much life to us today. Thank you so much, Reverend Fanny Boston. Thank you. Look, the day has been spent. Thank you all so much for coming out today. Have a wonderful, continue to have a wonderful MLK Day. We love you. Music moves. Thank you.